Let's talk about something that quietly sabotages a lot of people who are trying to change their reality. Most people focus on strategy, they refine their habits, they upgrade their morning routines, they visualize, they affirm, and yet their results barely shift. So the assumption becomes, I must need a better method. But often the method isn't the issue. The real question is, who are you being while you're doing all of that? Because if you still see yourself as someone who is trying to succeed, then you're reinforcing the identity of someone who hasn't succeeded yet.
That's the subtle trap. The identity of the one who is working on themselves. It can become permanent. You stay in growth mode, self-improvement mode, optimization mode. And the funny thing is, from the outside, it looks productive. But internally, you're reinforcing a story that you're not there yet. Your behavior always aligns with who you believe you are. If you believe you're climbing, you will keep climbing. If you believe you're building towards something, you'll keep building. The shift happens when you stop identifying as someone on the way and start identifying as someone who has arrived.
And this is where it gets uncomfortable because many people are more attached to the story of becoming than to the state of being. They are used to being the hardworking one, the disciplined one, the one who sacrifices. That identity feels safe. It feels meaningful. It gives them something to prove. So, if success arrived easily without struggle, they might actually feel unsettled because the struggle version of them would no longer have a role to play.
You can see this principle in the wider world as well. Recent media coverage has highlighted how online identity narratives on social media are shaping political behavior and public opinion. Once people attach to a story about who they are or what they stand for, their actions begin to align with that identity. Even when new information challenges it, the identity becomes stronger than the facts. That same mechanism operates at a personal level. Your internal narrative shapes your behavior, often more powerfully than logic does.
So, when someone says, I want more money or I want a different life, it's important to notice what's underneath that statement. Wanting reinforces not having. Constantly striving reinforces not yet. If your internal story is, I'm the one who has to work twice as hard, then you'll unconsciously recreate situations that require you to work twice as hard. And this isn't because the universe is testing you, not because you're blocked, but because your identity filters your decisions.
And this is where people misinterpret the idea of manifestation. They assume it's about techniques, visualization, affirmations, and routines. But techniques are secondary. Identity is primary. If you still see yourself as someone who is trying to get there, then all your actions will come from that frame. The person who is trying to become confident behaves differently from the person who already sees themselves as confident. The difference is subtle, but it compounds.
Let's make it practical. If tomorrow you suddenly had the income, freedom, or confidence you say you want, what part of you would disappear? The overworker, the constant planner, the one who needs to prove their value through effort? Would you feel guilty if things became easy? Would you feel exposed if you didn't have to struggle anymore? These are not comfortable questions, but they reveal where your attachment really is.
Because often the resistance isn't about fear of failure, it's about fear of losing identity. Struggle can feel honorable, it can feel moral, it can feel like proof of worth. Ease can feel suspicious, it can feel undeserved. So people unconsciously maintain the climb. They maintain the narrative of, I'm getting there, They stay busy. They stay in self-improvement mode, and years pass.
Mm. This doesn't mean effort is bad. It means effort driven by identity is powerful. If your identity shifts, your effort changes. When you genuinely see yourself as someone who already operates at a certain level, your decisions align automatically. You raise standards without forcing it. You stop tolerating things that no longer match. You price differently. You speak differently. You move differently. This isn't because you're pretending, but because it feels natural.
So instead of asking, how do I get there? Ask, who would I be if I were already there? How would that version of you think about time, about money, about opportunity, and about risk? What would they no longer feel the need to prove? What habits would they drop, not because they're lazy, but simply because they're unnecessary? Identity simplifies behavior. When the identity is clear, the actions follow.
Let's go deeper into what this actually means in daily life. Identity isn't just a thought you hold in your head, it's a pattern that shows up in how you respond under pressure, how you handle opportunity, and how you interpret feedback. If you identify as someone who is always behind, then every delay feels like confirmation. If you identify as someone who struggles with money, then every unexpected expense reinforces that story. The mind quietly collects evidence to support what you already believe about yourself.
And that evidence gathering process is automatic. You obviously don't wake up deciding to sabotage yourself. You simply filter the world through your current self image. And that's why two people can experience the same setback and respond completely differently. One sees it as proof that they aren't good enough, the other sees it as a part of the process. The event is neutral. The identity assigns meaning. When you understand that, you stop obsessing over events and start examining the lens that you're looking through.
This is why trying harder rarely works for long. If your identity is still, I'm the one who struggles, then even success can feel temporary. You might hit a financial goal and immediately create new pressure. You might achieve something meaningful and then raise the bar in a way that keeps you dissatisfied. The old identity finds a way to survive. It reshapes the situation to stay relevant.
So the work is not about forcing bigger outcomes. It's about making a different identity feel normal. Normal is powerful. Normal determines what you expect. Normal determines what you accept. If higher income feels abnormal, you will unconsciously behave in ways that return you to familiar territory. If calm confidence feels abnormal, you will look for reasons to doubt yourself. The goal is to expand what feels normal until the life you want no longer feels foreign.
There's another important dimension to this conversation. Identity also shapes what opportunities you even notice. If you don't see yourself as someone capable of leading, you may overlook moments that require leadership. If you don't see yourself as someone who belongs in certain rooms, you won't step into them. The opportunity might exist, but your internal story filters it out before you consciously engage with it.
And that's why repetition through action matters. When you consistently act in alignment with a new identity, even in small ways, you generate evidence. Evidence reshapes belief faster than intention alone. Send the message, raise the boundary, finish the task. Those actions accumulate. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable begins to feel normal.
When identity changes, standards change. You stop negotiating with habits that no longer fit. You stop explaining away mediocrity. A shift feels steady rather than dramatic. Real growth is often quiet. It looks like consistent standards, not sudden transformation.
And when your decisions shift consistently, your results eventually follow. Not through force, not through fantasy, but because identity shapes behavior and behavior shapes outcomes. Change who you believe you are, and the rest reorganizes around that belief. That's not mystical, it's structural. And it begins the moment that you decide to step out of the old story.
One more thing to understand is that identity influences emotional regulation. If you see yourself as someone who collapses under pressure, stress will confirm that belief. If you see yourself as someone who stays steady, you respond differently to the same stimulus. The nervous system follows the narrative you reinforce. That means your self concept does not just shape external action, it shapes internal state.
And when internal state stabilizes, performance improves without force. You recover faster from setbacks, and you interpret feedback with less defensiveness. You make cleaner decisions because you're not protecting an old identity. That alone can change income, relationships, leadership capacity, and creative output. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did.
So, this is not about becoming someone fake or abandoning your past. It is about consciously choosing which version of yourself you continue to energize. The past explains you, it does not define you. The moment you decide differently, the pattern begins to shift. And when the pattern shifts, results follow.
If this conversation resonated with you, if something in it felt less like information and more like recognition, then stay with us. Like the video so more people can find it. Share it with someone who senses that the world is shifting beneath the surface. Subscribe if you're ready to explore these ideas more deeply with us. And hit the bell, not out of habit, but because the next shift rarely announces itself loudly. It whispers first. We'll see you in the next one. Until next time, think differently, dream boldly, and create consciously.
I'm a quiet rebel. I don't need a shower. Changing the world from the inside out. No fist in the air.